from Barb being dragged into the Upside Down, to Eddie finally choosing to face the monsters rather than run. These are the most painful deaths in Stranger Things, starting with Eddie Munson. Eddie was the president of Hawkins High's Hellfire Club, which was basically just a D&D group.
This is Hellfire Club, not babysitting club.
Despite being labeled the school freak, Eddie genuinely cared about the younger kids in Hellfire Club, especially Dustin, Mike, and Erica, which made him instantly lovable to viewers. But everything changed when Chrissy Cunningham, the head cheerleader, came to his trailer, looking. For a brief moment, it seemed like Eddie was finally connecting with someone outside of his usual circle. Then Vecna took her out right in front of him. Since Eddie was already known as the town freak who ran a satanic D&D club, everyone immediately assumed he was to blame. So Eddie spent most of the season hiding, scared out of his mind.
Her bones started to snap. Her eyes, man, it was like there was something like inside her head pulling. I ran away. I left her there.
But when the group came up with a plan to take down Vecna, Eddie decided to stop running and help them. The plan was simple. Nancy, Steve, and Robin would go after Vecna while Eddie and Dustin distracted the demo bats. Eddie climbed onto the roof of his trailer in the Upside Down, plugged in his electric guitar, and played the most epic rendition of Metallica's Master of Puppets you've ever heard.
Chrissy, this is for you.
The sound echoed throughout the Upside Down, and hundreds of demo bats came swarming towards him. It worked perfectly. Eddie had successfully drawn them away from everyone. He and Dustin made it back inside the trailer and blocked the door as the bats slammed into it from outside.
Metal!
But then Eddie saw that the bats were starting to break through, and he knew they'd eventually find their way to the others. Before Dustin could stop him, though, Eddie cut the rope leading back to the real world, so Dustin couldn't follow. Eddie ran back outside and fought with everything he had, swinging his shield and spear at the swarm in a very Jon Snow battle of the bastards kind of way. But there were just too many of them. The demo bats overwhelmed him, tearing into him from every direction. By the time Dustin got through the gate and found him, Eddie was already taking his last breaths. Dustin held him, crying and begging for him not to go. Eddie smiled through the pain and said,
I think it's my year, Anderson. I think it's finally my year.
Then his eyes went still, and just like that, he was gone. Eddie didn't just pass saving his friends, he passed away saving a town that hated him. And that's what made it so damn heartbreaking. Barb Holland. Barb Holland was Nancy's best friend, and yes, this is back when Steve Harrington was a bit of a jerk and hadn't gone through his character development to become everyone's favorite mom yet. But Barb was cautious about Nancy's relationship with Steve, and one day reluctantly agreed to drive her to a party at his house.
Promise that you'd go. You're coming. We're gonna have a great time.
Well, newsflash, Barb did not have a great time. At the party, Barb tried to shotgun a beer to fit in, but accidentally cut her hand on the can. While everyone else kept partying, she went to the bathroom alone to deal with her wound. Feeling abandoned, Barb came back and told Nancy she wasn't being true to herself.
This isn't you.
But Nancy brushed her off and told her just to go home before heading upstairs with Steve.
I'm fine. Just go ahead and go home, okay?
So Barb, just completely alone by the pool, started staring at her reflection in the water. As she sat there, blood from her wound dripped into the pool. The Demogorgon, attracted by the scent, suddenly appeared and dragged her straight into the Upside Down. Meanwhile, Jonathan Byers was hiding in the trees during some serious Joe Goldberg-level stalking and unknowingly captured this moment on camera. Barb woke up in the upside-down version of the pool. When she saw the Demogorgon, she screamed and tried climbing out of the pool. The Demogorgon let her almost escape, but just as she nearly made it out, it dragged her back down and mauled her down. Later on in Season 4, Vecna would still taunt Nancy about Barb.
Do you remember what you did, Nancy? Or have you already forgotten? When I kill someone, I never forget.
Vecna only targets vulnerable people, and Barb's shy, insecure personality probably made her the perfect target. Chrissy Cunningham. Chrissy Cunningham was the head cheerleader at Hawkins High, pretty popular and seemingly perfect on the outside, but behind closed doors, she was struggling with an abusive mother who constantly criticized her appearance and pushed her into an eating disorder. And these struggles made her the perfect target for Vecna. Desperate for an escape, Chrissy went to the woods after school to buy substances from Eddie Munson. While she was waiting, she heard a clock chiming. She turned around and saw a grandfather clock lodged into a trunk tree. As she stared at it, the glass shattered and hundreds of spiders came crawling out. Chrissy backed away in horror and bumped straight into Eddie. When she looked back, the clock was gone. She had been hallucinating.
Do you ever feel like you're losing your mind?
Eddie was genuinely shocked that someone like Chrissy would even talk to him.
I feel like I'm losing my mind right now doing a drug deal with Chrissy Cunningham, the queen of Hawkins High.
And as they started talking, Eddie realized they'd actually met before in middle school. And for a brief moment, Chrissy seemed relaxed and even happy.
Corroded coffin.
Corroded.
Oh my god, yes,
You
no,
remember,
of course,
right?
with a name like that, how could I forget?
I don't know, you're a freak.
That night, Chrissy went to Eddie's trailer to pick up some stronger substances. While Eddie was in the back looking, Chrissy heard the clock strike again. She called out to Eddie but got no response. Panicking, she rushed into the hallway looking for him, but she wasn't in the trailer anymore. She was in a dark house. She saw her mother sitting in a chair sewing, and when she turned around, her face was rotting. Chrissy screamed and ran out only to find her father with his eyes gouged out and his mouth sewn shut. Back in reality, however, Eddie found Chrissy standing frozen in a trance. He started shaking her shoulders, yelling her name, but she didn't respond. The lights started flickering. In Chrissy's vision, Vecna walked slowly down the stairs towards her. Chrissy ran through the house, screaming and begging for help. Vecna then stood behind her and told her it was time for her suffering to end. Eddie was still trying to wake her up when suddenly, her body lifted off the ground and slammed into the ceiling. Her arms and legs twisted violently, her jaw dislocated, and then her eyes burst. Chrissy's loss was one of the most gruesome in the show's history and set the tone for Season 4's Nightmare on Elm Street vibe. She was kind, sweet, and completely undeserving of what had happened to her. Billy Hargrove. Next up, we got Billy, Max's stepbrother. And let's be real, he was a complete asshole for most of his time on the show. He was cruel to Max and was just an all-around terrible person. But Billy wasn't born that way. Before everything went wrong, Billy was actually a sweet kid who loved surfing and spending time with his mom. But his dad was abusive. He belittled Bully throughout his childhood and was violent towards his wife. Eventually, Billy started copying his father's aggression to prove his own toughness, and his mom couldn't take it anymore. She left, abandoning Billy with his abusive father. In Season 3, Billy became possessed with the Mind Flayer after it dragged him to a steel mill and took control of his body. The Mind Flayer used Billy to kidnap people and turn them into part of its hive mind. When the group suspected Billy was possessed, they lured him into a sauna to test their theory. For a brief moment, Billy broke down crying over what he had done.
I've done things, Max, really bad things I didn't mean to. He made me do it.
But then the Mind Flayer took control again.
Let me out, you bitch! Let me out! Fucking got you!
By the finale, Billy was sent to Starcourt Mall to eliminate 11. There, he knocked Mike and Max out of the way and took Elle straight to the Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer was about to finish her when the group attacked it with fireworks, giving Elle a chance to escape. But Billy pulled her back and pinned her down. That's when Elle reminded him of a memory she had seen inside of his mind, the happy moments with his mom.
A long dress with a blue and red flower, yellow sandals, covered in sand. She was pretty. She was really pretty. And you were happy.
For just a moment, Billy's face softened. A single tear rolled down his cheek as he remembered who he used to be. And in that moment of clarity, Billy made a choice. As the Mind Flayer lunged towards 11, ready to strike, Billy stepped in front of her and stopped it. The monster didn't hesitate though. Its claws tore into Billy's body again and again. Billy screamed in agony as the tentacles stabbed through him, but he held his ground, refusing to let the monster get to 11 and to the kids. And then the Mind Flayer stabbed his chest one last time. Billy's body went limp. At the same time, Hopper and Joyce closed the gate to the Upside Down, and the Mind Flayer lost its power and collapsed. Max ran to Billy crying and begging for him to get up, and as he gasped for air, he looked at Max and apologized before passing away from his injuries. Max sobbed over his body, mourning the brother he could have been if he just had more time. Alexei. And next up is Alexei, and fair warning, this one hurts. Alexei was a Russian scientist who worked on building technology to open gates to the Upside Down. After getting captured by Hopper and Joyce, he communicated with them through Murray, who was fluent in Russian. Alexei explained that the Russians were building something called the Key in Hawkins.
What's he saying? He says, showing me the location of the key to turn off the machine.
Basically, they were trying to open a doorway to the Upside Down, and for some reason, it only worked in Hawkins. So Hopper, Joyce, Murray, and Alexei headed back to town with a plan to shut down the Russian gate. When they got back to Hawkins, there was a big 4th of July fair happening. They needed to find the kids, so they went inside, but Alexei stopped at the entrance because he thought only Americans were allowed inside.
Я стану американским гражданином и буду веселиться как все, да?
But Murray told him that wasn't true, anyone could enjoy a fair, so they went in together. Once they were in, Alexei was like a kid in a candy store. He played carnival games, drank Slurpees, and was genuinely having the time of his life.
Big prize!
You can do it, mister!
He even won a giant stuffed Woody Woodpecker and was walking towards Murray with the biggest smile on his face. But while Alexei was having the time of his life, Grigory, a Russian assassin who had been looking for him, struck him down. Alexei passed away right then and there at the fair, surrounded by the sounds of laughter and music. Poor sweet Alexei. All he wanted was to drink Slurpees and play carnival games. Benny Hammond. Benny Hammond owned a local diner in Hawkins. He was just a kind guy trying to run his restaurant in peace when a young girl with a bald head and a hospital gown walked into his kitchen. She found some French fries and started eating them like she hadn't had food in days.
Think you can steal from me, boy?
But when he got a good look at her, he realized she was just a scared, starving kid. So Benny did what any decent person would do. He gave her clean clothes, made her a proper meal, and tried to figure out what had happened to her.
Your parents forget to feed you? Is that why you ran away? They hurt you?
Then he eventually noticed 11 tattooed on her arm and asked what it meant. After a few tries, the girl pointed to herself, signaling that 11 was her name. Benny had no clue what she had been through, but he knew she needed help, so he called social services.
Yeah, look, all I know is that she's scared to death. Yeah, I think maybe she's been abused or kidnapped or something.
That night, a woman showed up claiming to be a social worker, and Benny brought her inside, relieved someone was finally going to help this kid.
Listen, I haven't told her that you were coming yet. I didn't want to run off. Yeah. She's dead skittish.
But here's the thing, Connie wasn't a social worker. She was an agent from Hawkins' lab, the same people who had been experimenting on 11. As Benny turned his back, Connie pulled out a weapon and took him down. And the lab made it look like Benny had taken his own life. He passed away trying to do the right thing, and nobody except 11 ever really knew what happened. Heather Holloway. Heather Holloway was a lifeguard at the Hawkins community pool who worked alongside Billy, but all of that changed when she met Billy, who was already possessed by the Mind Flayer. One night during her shift, Billy attacked her and dragged her to an abandoned steel mill where the Mind Flayer was waiting. And just like that, Heather became one of the flayed. Later, when the group realized Heather was missing, Max and 11 went to check on her at her house. They found Billy there with Heather's parents, Tom and Janet, acting like everything was fine.
Do you girls want a cookie? They're fresh out of the oven.
After they left, Janet said she was feeling lightheaded and collapsed on the floor. As Tom went to check in on his wife, Heather grabbed a wine bottle and then smashed it over his head. Billy and Heather tied them up and brought them to the steel mill where the Mind Flayer was waiting.
Heather. Sweetie. Whatever this is, whatever he's got you into, you don't have to do this. You can stop this.
There, Tom and Janet were turned into the flayed just like Heather had been. Later, the Mind Flayer summoned all of the flayed to the mill for one final purpose. It didn't need them as puppets anymore. It needed their bodies. And one by one, Heather, her parents, and dozens of other beings began melting into thick goo. Their remains merged together to form a massive creature made entirely of human flesh. Heather's death is easily one of the most horrific in the series, as she was turned into a puppet, forced to sacrifice her own parents, and then melted down into nothing but fuel for a monster. Bob Newby. Bob Newby, also known as Bob the Brain, was in a relationship with Joyce and was completely devoted to her and her sons. He was just this genuinely good guy who always tried to be there for him. One day, Bob drove Will to school and gave him some advice, telling him to stand up for his fears and face them head on.
Easy peasy, right?
Easy peasy.
Later in the season, Will was being examined at Hawkins' lab after the group discovered he had some kind of connection to the Mind Flayer. While they were all there, Joyce, Hopper, Mike, and Bob, the lab's power suddenly went out and everything shut down.
Shall I teach you French while I'm at it, Jim? How about a little German?
Bob was the only one who knew enough about technology to fix it, so he volunteered to go down to the basement and restart the power manually.
Don't wait for me. As soon as I get those doors open.
Bob successfully got the power back on and started making his way back, and as he ran through the corridors, demo dogs started chasing him from every direction. He finally did make it to the lobby where Joyce was waiting, and for a brief moment, it actually looked like he was going to make it. Joyce's face lit up as she saw him running towards her, but just as Bob stopped to catch his breath and smile at her, a pack of demo dogs tackled him from behind. Joyce screamed as the dogs tore him apart right in front of her, and Hopper had to physically drag her away before they got her too. Dr. Brenner. Now moving on to the last, and maybe the least, we have Dr. Brenner, also known as Papa. Now, before we get into what happened to him, let's talk about why nobody really sheds tears for this guy. Dr. Brenner was the director of Hawkins National Laboratory, and he was responsible for kidnapping Eleven as a newborn and raising her in captivity to experiment on her psychic abilities. But wait, there's more. He didn't just experiment on Eleven, he had a whole facility full of children with numbers tattooed on their arms, all being used as test subjects. Brenner was extremely manipulative and would use psychological torture on Eleven whenever she disobeyed him, locking her in solitary confinement even though she was just a child. He'd push her to use her powers beyond her limits, not caring about the pain it caused her, but if she performed well, he'd reward her with affection, creating this twisted father-daughter dynamic.
I want you to listen to him.
Listen?
Yes. I want you to listen to what he says and repeat his words back to me. Just like we used to with those old nursery rhymes. Do you remember? Do you think you can do that for me?
Despite all of this, Brenner appeared to genuinely believe he cared for Eleven and the other children.
Last night, your sister Eleven suffered a concussion during her alone time in the Rainbow Room. Now, she claims to not have a memory of what happened, but injuries of this nature don't simply happen. Someone did this. Someone in this room. Now, who's going to tell me what happened?
In Season 4, when Dr. Owens brought Eleven to the Nina Project in Nevada, and she realized Brenner was still alive, he briefly seemed to regain her trust, and it seemed like Brenner might finally get a redemption arc. But he quickly showed his true colors once again. When Eleven tried to leave the facility to help her friends in Hawkins, Brenner didn't let her go. Instead, he tried to drug her.
You are the monster.
That decision proved to be his downfall when Lieutenant Sullivan's forces attacked the compound. As Brenner tried to escape on foot with Eleven, he was struck multiple times. Brenner collapsed, bleeding out in the desert, and in his final moments, he unlocked the collar around Eleven's neck and tried to justify everything he had done.
I want you to know I'm proud of you. So very proud. You are my family, my child. I've only ever wanted to help you, to protect you. Everything I did for you.
But Eleven just looked down at him and said 2 words.
Goodbye, Papa.
Then she walked away, leaving him there alone and in the sand. So, I've got to ask you, was Brenner's passing painful? Physically, sure. Emotionally? At least not for the audience. After everything he put Eleven and those kids through, most viewers felt like he got what he deserved. But hey, thanks to him, we did get this iconic line.
You are like Papa!
Really?
Well, folks, let us know in the comments below which death hit you the hardest, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and press all the buttons. Bye-bye!